This could be the beginning of World War III. This could be the...
This is what you motherfuckers sound like. I am enjoying all of the World War III posting as though the act of bombing Yemen is going to kick off World War III, you know? If that was the case, that would have happened a while ago. It's the same discourse every time, you know? I permit the World War III posting with the Ukraine war because that actually was a pretty substantial, like, you know, that was a pretty spicy stuff. But Yemen, bombing Yemen, World War III, come on, Jesus. Yeah, wacky stuff. Does anyone genuinely believe that, though? I don't know, man. People are pretty dumb. People are pretty stupid. Yeah, World War III is currently trending on Twitter. Look at this. Breaking massive explosions. This is from Donald Trump News, not official. Thank you. Massive explosions have been reported as the US and UK military forces carry out airstrikes against Houthi targets in Yemen. Did World War III just start? Why do we bomb the Houthis again? I'm a little lost. Okay, one more time. Let's get the ground rolling, folks. All right. The Houthis, well known and famous for their excellent flag. God is the greatest, death to America, death to Israel, a curse upon the Jews, victory to Islam. Those guys. They're an Islamist militia group in Yemen. More than a militia group, really. They're essentially a parallel government. They've been fighting with the Saudis for a while. You know, very complicated. We might have helped kill a couple bajillion innocent, you know, Yemenis with our sanctions and military support for Saudi Arabia. Who knows? Who's counting? You can see down here, right here, red, controlled by the government of Yemen. That's the quote-unquote official guys. Green, controlled by the Houthis. Now, what do the Houthis control? You might notice they control the part of Yemen that's right next to this passage of the Red Sea that ships have to go through on their way to bring you goods from Alibaba or wherever you get your shit from, right? So, the Houthis, in response to Israel's ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people, by the way, they don't actually care about the Palestinians. This is a recurring motif, okay? Every other Muslim group in the Middle East pretends to care about the Palestinians. They don't actually care. Like, they don't actually give a shit. They don't do anything to help them. They just they just don't like Israel. I mean, their flag literally says like death to Jews. This is not, these people are not acting out of humanitarian interest. Anyway, what with stuff heating up in the Middle East, they decide to respond to Israel's behavior by attacking random cargo ships moving through the Red Sea. Now, as it turns out, threatening global maritime trade is actually the kind of thing that basically guarantees that America has like a buster call sent to you. So we initiated Operation Prosperity Guardian, where us and a bunch of other countries agreed, yeah, we should probably go atomize the Houthis, huh? Like, they're attacking maritime traffic. We should probably go there. We should atomize them. We should sort of mulch them. We should reduce them to a fine, misty paste that sinks to the bottom of the Red Sea and sort of, you know, dissolves in it, like cherry-flavored creatine, just a light pink tint to the Red Sea. Make it red for real. So we sent some ships on over there. Now, here's the crazy thing about the United States Navy, folks. Contrary to what you might have heard on Twitter, it's actually pretty good. And the Houthis, well, slightly less so. So the US and UK Navy forces made their way over to the relevant area, and initially there was some exchanged fire with Houthi ships, you know. Now, Houthi ships are basically rowboats compared to what we have, so again, there's not really much of a fight here. Now, the real question is, will Operation Prosperity Guardian involve striking targets inside Yemen? Not just ships controlled by the Houthis, but actual Houthi targets inside Yemen. To which the answer is, obviously, yeah, of course they were going to. You think the United States would deploy, like, an international, like, military, like a joint action, like, naval group all the way over there to shoot at a couple of rowboats? Why would they do that? No, they did not send all that shit over there to stop at the boats. So now we bring ourselves to where we are today, which is, you know, we'll get a video stinger for this one. Thank you.
U.S. and British military have launched strikes against targets in Yemen, areas of Yemen controlled by the Houthis. This is according to 2 U.S. officials. This, of course, comes in the wake of those Houthi rebel strikes on ships in the Red Sea, those strikes on commercial ships that we've been talking about now for weeks. It is, of course, the potential for a big escalation of the growing conflict in the Middle East. We've got team coverage tonight. I want to start with Gabe Gutierrez, who is live for us at the White House. Gabe, what do we know and where does this go?
Oh, well, hi there, Hallie. As you mentioned, two sources confirmed to us that the U.S. and British forces have started strikes against Houthi targets inside Yemen.
Also, beautiful city, by the way. Hopefully our bombs don't hit anything too fancy, you know. Yemen has a very, as with many cultures in this region, you know, an incredibly like old architectural and cultural through line, you know, like a lot of history. So hopefully we only break half these buildings instead of all of them. You know, it would be unfortunate to turn the whole thing into a parking lot. That's beautiful. Yeah. If I recall correctly, U.S. strikes are basically UN approved. Everyone is fine with this. The Houthis f***ed up. They attacked international trade. You can't do that. Safe maritime trade, the fact that you can move ships around the world without being attacked by pirates is literally like the foundation of modern trade. It's like it's difficult to describe how important it is. This isn't just like an American capitalism thing. Like the planet unites against it. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants random maritime trade ship cargo vessels to be attacked for any reason under any circumstances. It's just too big. It's too involved. Top commander killed in Yemen. One nice thing about us doing these strikes rather than Israel doing them is that we actually know how to do precision targeting. I don't think this is real, though. No, that's fake. That's isn't that Prigozhin? This is a photo of Prigozhin, right? That's one of his like fake photos where he did the thing. Yeah? Okay, there we go. Glad I identified that one. Yeah, we'll see what the actual targets are. We're probably not going to get a report on you know, like the actual effects of these strikes for a while. The Houthis have, you know, no interest in reporting their losses, at least not in the way that we would, you know, find credible. They fuck with America's boats, having learned nothing from basically the entirety of U.S. military history. Yeah, no kidding. We got involved in World War II because of Pearl Harbor. The very first war America did, the Barbary Wars, was in the Middle East over piracy. That was the very first war we did, wasn't it? After the Revolutionary War. Why not just protect the boats without bombing the capital? Well, think about it. Like, for one, like, do you have any idea how expensive and impossible it is to provide a military escort for any of the thousands of ships that make their way through the Red Sea? It's not really possible. There's way too many. It would take like the world Navy to do it, you know? It would just be too much. The U.S. Navy was founded to fight pirates, the Barbary Wars. They kept attacking our ships, so we built another navy. Yeah, well. Houthi also got anti-ship missiles from Iran. Not that they'll do much to us, despite what you might have heard from Twitter, you know. It is deeply unfortunate. Civilians are going to die, almost certainly. I mean, it's essentially impossible that civilians don't die. I believe these airstrikes are being done by actual jets, not by drones. I assume the munitions we're using are relatively accurate and high quality. Obviously, you know, I don't know. I mean, we could be killing any number of civilians, but my guess is that they're interested in relatively targeted strikes. I think, you know, it's unfortunately what is happening right now, an almost inevitable consequence of attacking maritime trade. So it almost feels like it's not possible. Like, because I'm going to get to it, but like a lot of people are upset at this, oftentimes, I think, for reasons quite illegitimate. It said they're using Tomahawk missiles. Okay, gotcha. So are the U.S. and UK at war now? No. We have a declaration of war has not been supplied by Congress. Doesn't Congress need to approve of the missile strikes? No. My understanding is this is being done through the War Powers Resolution. It fits within the purview of the president's ability to engage in military action outside a declaration of Congress. I believe the limitations here are that it can't persist for more than 30 days, or is it 60 days? Here, hold on. I have the wiki up, because I preempted this. War Powers Resolution requires the president to notify Congress within 40 hours. That happened a while ago. Operation Prosperity Guardian was declared a while ago. Armed Force Military Action forbids armed force remaining for more than 60 days. We're not going to put boots on the ground. So it's probably just going to be like strikes from the ocean, from the sky. Also, Richard Nixon attempted to veto this, so that's interesting. Now, this was actually set as an attempt to limit the presidency's powers. Richard Nixon wanted like unlimited power. Your new best friend, Ro Khanna, and Democrat handler posted about it on Twitter. Yeah, I saw this. The president needs to come to Congress before launching a strike against the Houthis in Yemen and involving us in another Middle Eastern conflict. Okay, I dislike this for a couple of reasons. Because, again, like, a lot of this is political theater, you know? First of all, I'm pretty sure that, like, this is being done within a legitimate provision of the of the War Powers Act, the one or the one that we just looked at. I guess people are going to make their case, but my impression was that they were already involved and that all of the like prerequisite, like all the boxes had been checked. Also, launching a strike against the Houthis in Yemen and involving us in another Middle Eastern conflict. We're already involved in Yemen, you know. I feel like we're already involved there personally. And I guess we'll have to see. Seems like it isn't because Rashida is also saying this action was done without congressional approval. We'll see. POTUS can't launch airstrikes in Yemen without congressional approval. This is illegal and violates Article 1. Wait, no. This isn't true. With the what we're just talking about, the War Powers Act or whatever, you don't need congressional approval. You need to inform Congress. Congressional approval is one of the preconditions for allowing, but this is incorrect. You just need to inform them. You don't need their approval. That's the point. If you needed congressional approval, then it would just be a regular declaration of war. These people do not want more of our taxpayer dollars going to endless war and the killing of civilians. It's not. America wants to be isolationist so badly, dude. It's more complicated. This is the Rashida one, violating Article 1 of the Constitution without congressional approval. Again, it's being informed. It's not the approval thing. The American people are tired of endless war. I don't really. It's not endless war. It's a pretty specific. Whatever. AUMF overrides War Powers Act. Authorization of Military Force of 2001. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure that Biden is invoking the War Powers Act. Like this was its own thing, you know. This was its own different thing. They're bombing the capital of a country. That's a war. Yeah, but the question isn't whether or not it's a war. The question is whether or not congressional approval is required for the behavior. And my understanding was that Congress was informed. So I don't know. So is Biden actually purposely trying to ruin his chances? Pardon me for once again taking the contrary position here. I don't really mind this being done that much. It seems like a pretty inevitable consequence of the Houthis essentially run like a separate government within Yemen. They threatened maritime traffic. The entire world didn't like that. Yeah, the UN gave them a resolution. They said no. Like it's not like an ooh small bean mistake. The Houthis continued to do this in spite of like condemnation resolution, blah blah. So like, yeah, the hammer comes down. I guess it's not, I mean, it just seems so inevitable that it's barely even like a moral question. Like you threaten maritime trade, the hammer comes down. You're justifying Western hegemony. No. Everybody wants safe maritime trade. Everybody does, not just America, literally everybody. So Vaush, you really believe that if Israel stopped their genocide, the Houthis wouldn't go home and claim victory? I don't think there's much of a connection to it. The Houthis don't do what the Houthis do because Israel exists, you know? China's also probably fine with it. Everyone is fine with it. Joint statement from the governments of Australia, Bahrain, Canada, Denmark, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, Republic of Korea, United Kingdom, United States. Recognizing the broad consensus as expressed by 44 countries around the world on December 19, 2023, as well as the statement by the UN Security Council on December 1st, condemning Houthi attacks against merchant and commercial vessels transiting the Red Sea, our governments issued a joint statement on January 3, 2024, which called for the immediate end of illegal attacks and warned that malign actors would be held accountable should they continue to threaten lives, the global economy, and the free flow of commerce in the region's critical waterways. Despite this strong warning, attacks in the Red Sea have continued, including the launching of numerous missiles and one-way attack aerial vehicles against ships in the Red Sea on the 9th of January, including U.S. and U.K. vessels. I mean, they were literally attacking U.S. and U.K. vessels, like, from the ground. Like, this is a pretty normal response, I feel. Like, this is pretty, like, understandable. In response to these continued attacks, we are going to reduce all of Yemen to an ash heap. Well, you know, this is all a distraction from Hunter Biden's cock. That's true. Our aim remains to de-escalate tensions and restore stability in the Red Sea, but let our message be clear. We will not hesitate to defend lives, protect the free flow of commerce. Yeah, makes sense. No, Comradus Prime, it's not even about capitalism. Like, even if capitalism didn't exist, even if all the world was socialist, the hammer would still come down on the Houthis. This is just maritime trade. Trade isn't a capitalist thing. Trade is a human thing. Trade is just the economy exists, you know? The economy will always exist. The economy isn't a bad thing. It's just a descriptor of human behavior. It's an element of human social organization. Like the threatening of free maritime trade is a threat to any system, except for, I guess, radical Jucheist, like agrarian, unless every country in the world is like Pol Pot level with like agrarian self-dependence. Like I don't think there's any way around that. So people who are arguing this as a capitalism thing, like I reject that flatly. I think that's a dumb assessment of the situation. This is just like, this is just one of the easiest layups politically, man. Like, you go after maritime trade and like, this is what's going to happen. And they were warned, and now this is happening. And, you know, I don't know how much the Navy can reasonably accomplish in 60 days, but we do also have very big guns. We do have those. So I guess we'll see. It would make America look pretty bad if the Houthis just continued attacking ships after this. So I assume they're going to pound them pretty hard. Yeah, that's true. The one time that even America and North Korea were willing to get along was when they were against Somali pirates. Not Saudi pirates, if only. Isn't it kind of obvious why people are annoyed, though? Oh, people can be annoyed all they want, for sure. I think that America should have done a lot more with regards to, like, Israel's behavior. And I think there is a very legitimate argument for hypocrisy. If anybody wants to make the statement, wow, look at how quickly the U.S. comes to defend international trade, meanwhile we're on like month 4 of Palestinian genocide, that is a correct appeal to hypocrisy. That, you're 100%, I'm not fighting you on that one. Yeah, that is pretty fucking weird. I agree. Well, it's not weird. It's a product of like it makes sense because we know they're evil. You know, so it's not weird. We expect the evil, but you know, fully correct on that one. I'm talking about this issue like in and of itself in a vacuum. Yeah, exactly, Dylan Burns. Used to be when you wanted to commit piracy, you had to sail a ship right up to their ship. And nowadays, you know, fancy drone tech, missiles, you know, we've lost our way. Looks like Kyle Kulinski actually thinks the Houthis are fighting for Palestinian liberation. Yeah. There are a lot of people who are going to take this angle. An unconstitutional bombing campaign because Yemen blocked trade with Israel. Yemen didn't block trade with Israel. That's just not true. They just started attacking ships. That's not true. And they're not attempting to stop a genocide. This is just incorrect. It's just not true, you know, like at all. The Houthis are very, very, very anti-Semitic. They don't like Israel, and they will take any opportunities they can get to kind of like play off of international condemnation of Israel. They want to be seen as like a force that opposes Israel and the Jews, but they're not authentically doing that. They're not really helping, you know? Do people not read UN resolutions? It's the UN. Who pays attention to them? But yeah, I clicked on Yemen in terms of the trending terms, and I mean, I've seen a lot of this. From Hassan, been watching CNN since the U.S. coalition started bombing Yemen, and they haven't mentioned once the blockade was implemented due to the genocide in Gaza. How they ever talked about this bombing campaign as an act of de-escalation. Oh, okay. You mean not since we started bombing Yemen through Saudi Arabia, but like very recently. Yeah. It wasn't really due to the genocide in Gaza. They're just taking advantage of, whatever. Brianna Joy Gray with a good take, as always. Notice that even in America's telling of events, Yemen's blockade has been bloodless. The complaint now being answered with American bombs is weeks of delays in shipping times. Wait, the Houthis literally put out a video of them landing on a civilian shipping, like freight boat with a helicopter and storming it with guns. Like, is that non-violent? They've been firing missiles. What? The reason their quote-unquote blockade, it's not really a blockade, has been bloodless, to the extent that it has been bloodless, is because they suck. Bombing Yemen on the same day Israel stood trial for genocide. I just wonder if these Western leaders realize they made the world lose total faith in any kind of international law order. The international law agrees with them. The United Nations, it's a coalition of dozens of governments. Maybe Democrats can solve their Biden on the ticket problem by impeaching him for blatantly unconstitutional strikes in Yemen. I mean, we'll see if the War Powers Act bit doesn't go far, but my understanding of this was that this is like an unambiguous extension of the presidential power to, you know, blow shit up. Man, I don't see anybody with even a remotely left-leaning disposition on Twitter arguing even a little bit sensibly on this. It's quite disheartening, you know? Like, look at this crap. Jesus. Pray for Yemen. They stood by the Palestinians unconditionally. No, they haven't. What? The Palestinians have been going through this shit for more than half a century. That's not true. They're just, oh, dude. This is literally like seeing Nancy Pelosi kneeling with like a kente cloth and declaring that she is like the greatest ally of Black Americans who has ever lived. You know, like lefties are so quick to assume that just because they're all brown people that they must actually get along. That's what they're doing, by the way. This shit is racist. They would never be this sort of uncritically accepting of these shallow declarations of support if they were being made by white people. It's because they're all brown Muslim people, you know, so, oh, they must love each other, you know. The Middle East, they're all like one people, basically, except for Israel, you know. That's why everything worked out when Britain drew the lines where they did, you know, because they're all the same, basically. It's weird, man. The Houthis are just anti-Semitic and they're trying to rabble-rouse. They don't actually give a shit. Vaush, the libs win again, let them out. Yeah, well, I've said it before, but I feel like libs are consistently better than lefties on foreign policy, not including Israel. Not including Israel. Not that one. Not that. But, like, if you average it out, probably generally better, you know. But do they condemn Hamas? I'm pretty sure the Houthis don't condemn Hamas, would be my guess. You know, just a guess of mine. Let's finish this first video.
This is an escalation, Hallie. The U.S. had been trying to prevent or had
Israel's committing a genocide. The Houthis are blocking ships that support that genocide. No, they're not. No, you've completely drank the Kool-Aid. They're not. That's not what they're doing. They're just attacking ships. The idea that they are like specifically targeting ships to like embargo Israel is just not true. It's just that there's reality and then there's that. It's just not true. They're just attacking ships.
Retaliatory strikes against Houthi forces before, but these are the first land-based retaliatory strikes that the U.S. Has undergone.
Like it would literally be like Israel begins the genocide of the Palestinians, or at least the most recent, you know, they've sort of taken to it more aggressively now. And then somebody's running around like downtown Chicago with a pistol, like shooting people, and then they're like shooting people dead. And you're like, whoa, what are you doing, man? And he's like, no, don't worry, they're Jews. Stop in Israel, something. While he's like rifling through their shit, you know, like you're like, there are so many like things wrong with the premise. I don't think it's a credible argument, you know? Literally every lefty I see is repeating that Houthis are defending Palestinians. Yeah, man, again, like this shit, like lefties are such marks, dude. You'll believe any old shit. You will believe any narrative if it sounds like you're defending the oppressed or whatever. Like anything that makes you feel that way. I like, it does not take much critical examination of the Houthis to understand this is not being done sincerely. It's not like a deep dive or whatever, you know, it's pretty transparent. Houthi leader vows a, quote, big response if U.S. follows through on, quote, consequences for shipping attacks, report says. You don't say. The leader of the Houthi militants on Thursday vowed a big response if the U.S. and its allies take military action. Won't go unpunished. There will be consequences. The leader of the militia group said Thursday any response would be, quote, greater than an attack carried out by the Houthis this week, which was narrowly thwarted by U.S. and UK navies. Is that all he said? Was it just like one line they keep dragging out? He recently stated, quote, direct confrontation with the American, British, and Israeli is what we yearn for. Well, okay. I mean, whatever you say.
Raf Sanchez, I want to go to you now, live for us in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And Raf, we have talked now for weeks about the potential for a broader regional escalation, particularly after these attacks by Houthis in the Red Sea. We know there have been more than 24 on commercial ships, commercial tankers. This has been an issue that the U.S. and allies around the world have been trying to get a handle on.
This has been an issue for 2 months, Hallie, and the Houthis, week after week, attack after attack, have been defying the U.S., defying America's allies. And
you know, I gotta say, these guys really aren't doing themselves any favors with being accused of, like, Western chauvinism, when the central criticism, the first one that you list when you're talking about the Houthis, is they've defied the U.S. Threatening international maritime trade is like a world concern, you know, like it's like a universal thing. But so this isn't a defying the U.S. How about they defied the United Nations? What about that? Like, I don't know, maybe give it like like indicate the international status of the, maybe a little bit.
Continuing these strikes on commercial ships heading through the Red Sea, through that narrow strait called the Bab el-Mandeb. Around 20% of global trade disrupted by these Houthi attacks, according to the U.S. government. You have ships, rather than going through the Red Sea, through the Suez Canal, and into the Mediterranean, are now taking this very long route around the southern coast of Africa.
Yep.
The Houthi attacks have been driving up the cost of shipping, costs which have been passed on to consumers all over the world. And it has become a situation that has become untenable from the perspective of the White House, from the perspective of the British government. You've heard Secretary Blinken, as he's been here in the region over the last week, saying again and again, there will be consequences if these Houthi attacks continue. And they have continued. Just yesterday, according to the U.S. and British militaries, the Houthis launching their largest, most complex attack yet. 18 drones, 3 missiles fired at ships in the Red Sea, despite those warnings from the U.S., from the U.K. These strikes
and the UN. God, dude, why?
Have been very highly telegraphed, Tally. The Houthis have known they were coming.
It's because this is being filmed in Tel Aviv, and Israel knows the United Nations hates them, so they only want to invoke their allies and not like the world, you know? Hold on, can we listen to like a real journalist for a second?
Yes.
There
Folks,
we go.
I'm making this video because people don't seem to realize how serious the situation is right now. At this point, we've seen for the last few months how the Houthi forces in Yemen have been stopping ships to support the Palestinians. They've said that in order to support the Palestinians, they're not letting any ships pass through the Red Sea.
I thought they were only stopping Israeli ships. Now they're stopping all ships. Wait, hold on. Get your story straight. I thought they were only going after ships that were involved in Israeli trade. Now it's all ships going through the Red Sea they're after?
Because Israel won't stop bombing Gaza. And so demanding that Israel stop bombing Gaza, they are blocking the Red Sea. Well, now we find out that the United States and the United Kingdom are on the brink of attacking the Houthi forces, the Yemeni Houthi Ansar Allah forces that have been blocking the Red Sea. The U.S. and the United Kingdom are on the brink of carrying out a major strike.
Oh, thank you. Who linked this? Who linked this? Who linked this? Last Wish 16. Ships that have been attacked by the Houthis since October 7th. And like the date, you know? 15th of December, HMS Diamond, a Royal Navy destroyer downed a Houthi UAV launched at vessels in the southern Red Sea. So it's just all engagements, I guess. Houthis boarded this vehicle carrier en route from Turkey to Indonesia by helicopter and hijacked it to Hudaida port. Houthis claim to have targeted this container ship sailing from Singapore to Egypt because it was bound for occupied Palestine. It wasn't hit. Earlier, Houthis fired ballistic missiles, which also missed. French Navy frigate downed 2 Houthi drones launched at it 100 kilometers off Yemen coast. Navy destroyer and FA-18s from Eisenhower aircraft carrier downed 12 attack drones, 3 anti-ship ballistic missiles, and 2 cruise missiles fired by the Houthis. No damage to ships in the area. You can tell when the Americans get involved. Anti-ship ballistic missile drone fired at Norwegian tanker carrying biodiesel from Saudi Arabia to Reunion. It was hit by but continued on course. Owner says no Israel links. We have yet to hit a single vessel that was Israel linked, by the way. The container ship sailing from Greece to Singapore was hit by a UAV, resulting in a fire on board. Houthis also ordered another vessel to alter course towards Yemen. Container ships sailing from Saudi Arabia to the UAE reported a nearby explosion in the water, but was not hit. Houthis launched ballistic missiles which missed and an anti-ship missile that hit and caused minor damage to the bulk carrier. 2 other ships, number 9 and Sophie II, were hit. Registered in the Bahamas, though which ship isn't. No info on that listed. I don't care enough to go into detail. This is just legit indiscriminate piracy, lol. Yes! It's just indiscriminate piracy. Do you think the Houthis even have the intel to fully know the details on the random cargo ships they're firing at? They're literally like blind firing missiles from the coast, you know? No, they're literally just randomly attacking ships. The idea that this is being done to defend Palestinians is bullshit, you know? Yeah, Imperial General, but keep in mind, they would have to get it like live and know the exact path of the ship and distinguish it from other ships in the region, of which there are many. Actually specifically targeting ships passing through a really busy strait, going after the ones you want to, but not the ones you don't want to, actually does take a decent amount of wherewithal. Also, in case you guys have forgotten, they're literally radical Islamists. Their flag is just death to Jews in text. Do you really expect that much competence from these guys? Houthi drone to hit Norwegian crude tanker sailing from Romania to India. USS Laboon responded and downed 4 drones launched towards it. 2 anti-ship ballistic crude oil tanker sailing from Russia hit by drone. Damn, they're even going after their allies. Sailing from Kenya to Saudi Arabia hit by ballistic missile. U.S. Navy destroyer down Houthi UAV. 2 missiles fired at the tanker sailing from India to Suez, while a U.S. Navy destroyer downed a Houthi drone. Navy destroyer down 3 Houthi drones. Sailing from Morocco to India. Unknown assailants boarded a merchant vessel south of Oman and hijacked it towards Somalia. Wait, hold on. Towards Somalia. Unknown hijackers. I've heard this one before.
Against the Yemenis. And now we also find out that in Iraq, the Shia militias that are aligned with Iran say that if that happens, they will unload on American bases. They are locked and loaded and ready. Hezbollah in Lebanon is also locked and loaded and ready. And if the United States and the United Kingdom go ahead and attack the Red Sea...
At the Red Sea? The only one who's been attacking the Red Sea is Houthis whenever they misfire with the rocket. You know, they're the ones hitting the sea.
This could be the beginning of World War III. This could be the...
This is what you motherfuckers sound like. I go on Twitter, I just see a bunch of Caleb Maupins, okay? Caleb Maupin must be jealous because the Houthis are the ones who are about to get spanked.
beginning of a really, really ugly situation. They are locked and loaded all over the Middle East, in Lebanon, in Iraq, and in other places to just unload on American forces immediately. If this happens, this could be a disaster.
Dog, did you... I just remember how the narrative, like, 1 month ago was that the American Navy was going to, like, collapse in fear of the Houthi might. And now it's like, you know, actually U.S. military bases will be destroyed by Shia militias.
A lot of American soldiers are going to be coming home in baddie bags. A lot of people are going to die. A lot of people have already died. The solution is that Israel needs to stop bombing Gaza. The whole world is asking for a ceasefire to protect Palestinian lives. And the United States seems to be just standing by and protecting Israel at the UN Security Council and doing everything they can to continue to let Israel continue its bombardment. Well,
it's not about protecting Israel because, again, the Houthis haven't really done anything that disrupts Israel. They've just been disrupting maritime trade.
The whole world is against it. There are proceedings going on right now in the International Criminal Court of Justice against Israel brought by South Africa. The whole world is saying that Israel just needs to stop. And now the United States is on the brink of launching World War III by attacking Yemen.
Launching? As an initiative? Like, just with Yemen? That's the linchpin for World War III, boys. Yemen. The previously unbombed Yemen, you know?
Basically because they are so determined to protect Israel. This is outrageous. This is crazy.
Oh, here's attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria, like by Iranian-backed militias. Guys, would you be surprised to hear that random Islamic jihadist militias that have been given rusty Cold War era rifles and thrown at a U.S. military base actually very rarely do anything? Would you be surprised to hear that the United States military actually usually does pretty well when directly assaulted by Shia militants? In case you were wondering, you know. Starting on the 17th of October, Iran-backed militias initiated a coordinated series of more than 115 attacks on U.S. military bases and assets in Syria and Iraq, resulting in dozens of injuries. Not a single death. Oh, hold on. One non-combat contractor killed. There we go.
Escalate now. This situation needs to de-escalate. This is a disaster. De-escalate now. Do not strike Yemen. Tell Israel to stop bombing Gaza. The USA needs to stay the hell out of the Red Sea. Hands off Yemen. Stop supporting Israel. Ceasefire now. And
what we need to do is we need to get the IDF to bomb Yemen. We just need to redirect the bombs. Wait, the bomb's over here and not over here. It's in the wrong place. People might mistake my thoughts on it. In all likelihood, there's not actually going to be like that many deaths. My guess, I could be wrong, right? Like, I can't predict the future, but my guess is that this is going to be a relatively dense and coordinated series of strikes to destroy infrastructure we've taken the time to identify beforehand, and after that we're going to back off substantially and go like, you know, I don't think there's going to be that much of a committed long-term engagement. Not to, like, for one reason above all others, we don't have a full supply line running down to the Red Sea, do we? Like, the missiles they're firing, the bombs they're dropping, they only have as much as are carried on that carrier group. Like, they have a limited, like, they don't have like a full chain of resources coming in. We do in Djibouti. Are we getting resupplied through them? I thought the Saudis weren't even a part of Operation Market Guardian, and I don't know how much we keep in our bases in Djibouti. Certainly not like Tomahawk missiles, right? I guess we could. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know what we keep in our base in Djibouti. We have base Djibouti. Yeah, but like everyone does, right? The U.S. Navy can restock within 24 hours. The question is, like, to what extent are they willing to do that, though? You know, there's a difference between, I guess, like purely on a vibes level, there's a difference between parking an aircraft carrier off the coast of Yemen, giving them a light pepper, you know, a little twist, like at a restaurant, and then dipping, and like a full supply line of Tomahawk missiles to continue hitting them with. What's special about Tomahawks? It's big missiles, you know, not little bullets or whatever, big missiles. I just, you know, I just see a lot of bad takes. So I just wanted to come on here and declare my, you know, unilateral support for continued bombing of Yemen. Is it racist to make Djibouti jokes? It's kind of inevitable, you know? Like, if in Djibouti, it turns out in their language, Philadelphia means like anus boil, they'd probably make fun of that, right? I don't know. The U.S. Navy is using this Houthi shit to train their guys in air defense stuff. Oh yeah, sure, for sure. You always want people with combat experience. Watch you get canceled for your Houthi takes? I'm sure some people will try to. You know, I don't know if anyone's going to argue with this. Get like dogpiled on Twitter if I engage with this right now. Jesus Christ. From Marianne Williamson, the U.S. dropped bombs on the Houthis in Yemen today because the Houthis are attacking ships in the Red Sea in retaliation for Israel for dropping bombs on Gaza. An infinitely better way to handle this would be for the bombs to stop dropping on Gaza. Well, I agree that would be nice. It's not the worst take I've heard, I guess. I don't think the Houthis would stop there, you know. Even if they did, you know, they still have to be, the hammer still has to come down. There's no getting around the hammer, folks. The hammer is a very important part of the process. Sorry, I'm looking like OSN technical stuff. It's a war right now. What does the War Powers Resolution require the president to do before taking military action? What does it allow Congress to do after the president uses force abroad without authorization? The War Powers Resolution does not authorize the president to use force. It is a common misperception to think otherwise. The law's stated purpose is to fulfill the intent of the framers of the Constitution and ensure the collective judgment of both Congress and the president will apply to the introduction of U.S. armed forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated a circumstance. As noted above, it takes a limited view of the president's authority to introduce U.S. armed forces such as... Wait, this doesn't debunk anything on its own. All it says is that it gives the president a limited, like, range of allowable military activity outside of congressional approval. But this doesn't say that what has happened is wrong. Read the quote tweet from Rokana. Section 2C of the War Powers Act is clear. POTUS may only introduce the U.S. into hostilities after congressional authorization in a national emergency when the U.S. is under attack. Reporting is not a substitute. This is a retaliatory offensive strike. He's saying Rokana is wrong, I think? No, I think he's agreeing. The constitutional powers of the president as commander-in-chief to introduce the United States Armed Forces into hostilities or into situations where imminent involvement in hostilities is clearly indicated by the circumstances are exercised only pursuant to 1. A declaration of war, which Congress has not done. 2. Specific statutory authorization. I believe that would also come from Congress, statute, you know. Or 3. A national emergency created by attacks or by attack upon the U.S., its territories or possessions, or on its armed forces. The Houthis literally did attack U.S. Navy vessels. So that sounds like a cheap technicality, but that in and of itself fulfills the criteria objectively. Now, I would argue that the real reason this is being done, obviously, is not for retaliation for those, like, meaningless attacks against our ships, but rather because they're attacking something that is actually the territory of all people on this earth, which is international maritime trade. So this would be like a constitutional law argument to make, I guess, or like, you know, you'd have to do some interpretation bullshit. But I think you could fairly argue that the right to free trade internationally is something that could fit in the purview of territories or possessions, you know? Like, if there was a threat to international maritime trade, you would not need to wait until an American ship specifically got taken to act. You could act in response to, like, the broader threat, you know? That being said, if you're looking for, like, a technicality, I think that attack upon its armed forces is fulfilled. The criteria is fulfilled, so... I know that's not a very, like, definitive or satisfying answer, but again, I really do think that as justified military engagements go, this one's pretty high up there. You can't attack international maritime trade, you know? You can't do that, man. You can't do that. You can't do that. It gets more complicated even because Houthis aren't the government of Yemen, so you can't really start a standard war against them. I guess that's technically true. We don't recognize the Houthis as the, as the leaders of Yemen. Yeah, that gets more in the particulars on that side of things. So I would rather stick, I guess, towards my end of the explanation. But yeah. Do you think Trump would be better on the Houthis than Biden? Oh, I don't know. But is bombing Yemen the right way to respond? Yeah. Like the drones and missiles are being fired from inland Yemen. What are you supposed to do about these attacks on, like, we're talking about international waters that are passing through a strait in the Red Sea. Like, there's no way to go around it unless you go all the way around Africa. You can't just like park an embargo ship. You can't just like keep ships there forever and just shoot down missiles and drones as they come out, right? I mean, eventually you fire back. You got to bomb somebody. I mean, what are you going to do? Send an aircraft carrier all the way to the Red Sea and not bomb somebody? Come on. Yeah, while we're out here, come on. I mean, the moral decision is to stop the Israelis. Yes, I agree, and I've talked about that extensively, including my own ideas on how that should be done. But I don't think I know the Houthis aren't actually doing this to stop Palestinians, so it's kind of its own issue, What's the Houthis' actual reason for attacking ships? Same reason pirates do piracy. They want to get the stuff off of them, and they want renown. They're rabble rousers. They want to build legitimacy with other anti-Western radical groups in the Middle East by positioning themselves as a fighter against Israel. They want to meet God. Also, a lot of them just want to meet God. Again, jihadists. Why now? Because now is an excellent time to show the world that you're anti-Israeli. Maybe the Houthis should be protesting in a place where they're not blocking traffic. It always comes down to traffic. The farmers in Europe blocking traffic, the hipsters in Seattle with the 5, and now it's the strait in the Red Sea. It's always with traffic. It's all human politics. It's like how all energy generation is just boiling water. Windmills, some kinds of solar, nuclear power plant. You're boiling water. It's like politics. You're defending a highway. Everything is traffic. America only started attacking after the UN Security Council resolution. Yeah, really quick question, by the way. I'm wondering like how people feel about this, like lefties or whatever. Why did Algeria, China, Mozambique, and Russia abstain from voting in the UN Security Council resolution 2722, which was when the Security Council broadly condemned the Houthis? 11 voted for, 4 abstained, but no one voted against it. China and Russia also want the Houthis stopped. They just don't want to be seen as it, China and Russia get a lot of political capital from pretending to be anti-Western hegemon, but again, international maritime trade is a global thing. Remember, one of the ships the Houthis attacked was coming from Russia, Literally everyone wants the Houthis to stop. It's just America stepping up to the plate. Ooh. Getting on up there. China wants them to stop but doesn't want to lift a finger. Aren't there 20 countries who are a part of Operation Market Guardian or a Prosperity Guardian who are staying anonymous? I remember reading that somewhere, that the official number of countries involved is 24 or something, but there's another 20 that are on their side. Prosperity Guardian, but quietly because they don't want to take the heat for it or something. Some of them are probably Saudi states too. Oh, for sure, 100%. Can this be resolved without bombing Yemen? Oh, well, how would you get the Houthis to stop? I mean, legit. We've got an aircraft carrier parked there, and a lot of the Houthis are kind of dipshits anyway. So, I don't know. Won't a blockade need to be enforced? Yeah, which is why we're not doing a blockade. We're doing a light carpet bombing. No, we're doing a targeted missile strikes. Why would bombing Yemen stop them, though? Well, the people who are doing the attacks on maritime trade are in Yemen. And the thought is that if you take a person who's doing that piracy and then you reduce them to mist by hitting them directly in the head with a Tomahawk missile, they can no longer do it. The theory is that when you atomize a person with an explosive, it prevents them from engaging in further acts of piracy. I don't know if any studies have been done on that particular relationship, but at the very least, the correlational element seems strong. Well, keep in mind, the Houthis aren't like Al-Qaeda, they're not 5 guys in a cave. They are a fully operational, militarized organization that controls the eastern portion of Yemen. So, it's not like you're attacking one guy at a wedding, theoretically. You could attack, buildings they have, institutions, military bases, depots, hangars. They're keeping those drones somewhere, aren't they? You know, it's not, it's, you know, there are things worth striking in the Houthi territory. Is there a way to target Houthi military targets without killing civilians? No. You can minimize civilian deaths, but civilian death is always going to be a possibility. Don Juan, I do not think the United States would ever fire missiles into Yemen off of Saudi intel. That would be insane. America has by far the most advanced intel network on the planet. It's so advanced, we don't even know how much money we give our spy satellite program. Like, there was like a recent like incidental declassification from Trump of satellite technology that was so advanced that we didn't want other people knowing we had it, and we put it up in space in the 90s. Like, we've got 5 million Hubble James Webb telescopes pointed directly down at you guys. The U.S. government can see you trim your toenails in the bathroom, all right? You'd see it. I don't think we're using Saudi intel. I think we're using our own. We targeted people based on bad foreign intel all the time. Sure. But my impression is that the Biden administration has tried to be relatively good about incidental civilian casualties, and we've had months leading into this. The administration knew this was going to happen, right? Like, this confrontation has been built towards. The idea that with all of that leading time, that after all of that, we would send our aircraft carrier down there in the Red Sea and then use Saudi intel when the Saudis have done nothing against the Houthis? You know, I doubt. I mean, what to be clear, you could be correct. I just think that would be very dumb. And I think that would be bad and dumb if they decided to go that route and use Saudi intel. But, you know, my opinions on this are well noted, but it's an absolute fact that the Biden administration has massively scaled down the extent to which civilians have been killed in our drone strikes, to the extent we still even do them. This is grim, dude. Ben Shapiro responded to Rashida Tlaib's tweet, and I think Ben Shapiro is correct. Why do people put themselves in this position? Rashida Tlaib said that Biden is violating Article 1 of the Constitution. Ben Shapiro quote tweeted with the War Powers Act thing. Man, why tee yourself up for this shit, man? I don't know. Like, we're on such a good streak, you know, with the Israel bit in terms of like condemning bad behavior. I don't want to see indiscriminate bombing in Yemen. It's not going to be indiscriminate, for one. For two, okay, I don't want maritime trade to be destroyed because a group of jihadist pirates have taken to the, you know, the shipping lane, and for some reason we're not doing something about it. Like, every other point in human history, pirates do this and they all get hung up. You know, they all get hanged. And then, like, the Houthis do it. It's like, oh, we can't do anything because Israel's doing something. Well, I think we can do two things. I think we can do two things at once, in my humble opinion. So is this a declaration of war? No. It's, you know, executive military action. From Nina Turner, tonight Joe Biden dropped bombs on Yemen without congressional approval. You don't need congressional approval under the War Power Act. So in the original tweet, Joe Biden says, let's be clear, Donald Trump does not have the authority to take us into war with Iran without congressional approval. That is true, because taking a person into war requires a declaration of war with congressional approval. Tonight, Joe Biden dropped bombs on Yemen without congressional approval. It's a lot of lefties also don't like the War Powers Act. I agree with that. I think it's fine to not like it. It's just people pretending it's a constitutional thing, you know? If you're just going to say, like, the War Powers Act or whatever, you're like, yeah, go for it. Like, okay, that's a statement. You know, you can make that statement. That's legal. It's a free country. You can say that if you want. You know, would this fall under the purview of peacekeeping? Yes. Objectively, yes. 100%. Yeah. From Joshua P. Hill, the highest IQ account on Twitter. The U.S. has been illegally killing civilians in the Middle East for most of my life under both parties. Now a Democratic president is illegally bombing Yemen instead of trying to stop a genocide. Biden has now bombed Syria, Iraq, and Yemen, all to ensure Israel can continue slaughtering Palestinian women and children. Oh, we have the Haas take. I wish this was in his voice. The U.S. made a big mistake bombing Yemen. If you think a new war in Yemen is going to be restricted to Yemen, think again. It's now open season for U.S. and British military bases in the region. The Yemenis are fearless and have nothing to lose. They will set the whole region on fire. How? This is desert. How would they set it on fire? All the way... What is this? What is this circle? Half of Egypt? Egypt? Sudan? Oman? Okay. Do not underestimate their strike capacity far outside Yemen either, or their deeply embedded alliances with other groups. We have just heard reports of new attacks on U.S. bases by Iraqi militaries. Everyone knows The major regional war will break out this year. It looks like it might now be entering the point of no return. All the defenders of justice, soldiers of righteousness, and keepers of honor are Yemeni today. All the noble among mankind are with Yemen, and the fate of all humanity is Yemeni. We see a people wage a war for no reason other than the defense of human dignity without any profit motive whatsoever. History will remember heroic Yemen, who did what the other Arab leaders were too cowardly and corrupt to do for all eternity. I love him. Yeah, he is iconic, you know. Your lesser evil president is bombing civilian cities in Yemen. What does that mean? Civilian cities? What other kind of city is there? As opposed to military cities, the other places that you bomb. Because Yemeni stop ships without hurting anyone. This, like, seriously, like, this is the left. Like, this is why I say when you go, like, international politics, you know, you talk to liberals. Because, like, holy shit, dude. Really? Just literal like old style piracy to block a major shipping lane, like stopped ships without hurting anyone. Absolutely remarkable. Justin Amash. If President Biden had enough time to form a multinational coalition to plan and conduct strikes in Yemen, he had enough time to seek and obtain authorization from Congress as our Constitution requires. No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The War Powers Act says right there. It just has to inform them. It doesn't say it needs their approval. It doesn't say that. Whee! Also, imagine unironically believing that you could get anything passed through Congress at the moment. We know from the White House's own statement that the U.S. strikes recently launched were non-defensive. What? The strikes were warned about well in advance and intended to deter, not to stop an incoming attack. What? Wait, what? The Houthis literally fired missiles at their what? Dude, what? Like, it's like so, like, America bad, therefore I am now like a jihadist propagandist. Like, what? They attacked the ships. That's real. That's a real thing that happened. Non-defensive. Crystal also posted an L. Biden claims he cares about civilians while expediting the 2,000-pound bombs that murder them. He claims he doesn't want a war while illegally bombing Yemen, a liar and a criminal. Quick question. Is there a single leftist online right now who isn't being insane at this exact moment? No? So to be clear, what I just said wasn't a joke. I actually want an answer to that. Is there a single leftist, Dylan Burns isn't a leftist, right? He's a social democrat. A leftist who isn't being insane right now. Why do you support climate change protesters blocking traffic as a form of protest and not Houthis doing the same at a greater scale? Because I think a militant jihadist organization hijacking ships in an act of piracy that disrupts global trade is probably different from, like, holding up a road for a couple hours for a PR stunt. There's probably a difference between those things. I guess I'd have to think on it more and evaluate my priors to decide if there's any difference between those things. You know, firing like missiles at random cargo ships that pass through the Red Sea, like like sending drones to strike them. I guess I'll have to contemplate. All right, KCJ from LI. Only I'm allowed to call people brain dead commie scum. Why do you support protesting but condemn piracy? Yeah. Have the Houthis killed any innocent sailors? I don't think they have. I mean, they fired missiles at ships, so the fact that nobody's died has been more a matter of luck than anything. But no, I don't think they've executed the people whose ships they have taken. I mean, they've kidnapped people. Have the Houthis even stopped any Israeli ship? To my knowledge, no. What are the Houthis' crimes other than interrupting maritime trade? I mean, we'd have to get into the the Yemeni civil war there, which is really bad. Like, the Houthis have done a lot of stuff. They're a militant jihadist organization, backed heavily by Iran. I think that, I guess, like, if you're doing like a, like oppression Olympics kind of deal, they're probably not as bad as the Saudis. And they've definitely caused less death than the Saudis have in Yemen. They're not a good group. The problem ultimately is that, like, if you disrupt maritime trade, like, this is like the #1 rule of the ocean, right? And it's, if you do piracy, you get hanged. And that's a good rule. It's a good one. You know, rarely do people who engage in this kind of behavior even get the dignity of a fair trial. You know, usually you just die. And that's what's going to happen here to a lot of them. The actual, like, number of deaths here is immaterial. There's no way to stop them except by doing this. And they have to be stopped, so doing this is what has to be done. The Houthis aren't like small beans. They're a massive, like, 6-figure strong, well-armed, well-equipped, jihadist militia that's been indiscriminately attacking civilian trade liners. You know, they knew this was happening. I get they're endangering civilians, but isn't it their territorial waters? Nope. It's international shipping. They're not defending their territorial waters.